Welcome to board boat number 2. This is Hickory board, and what you want to look for, I'm learning more and more, is straight grain parallel with each other from bottom to top. So you can see on this one, if I look on here, you can see this white line. It's running pretty parallel all the way from end to end, and all the rest of those growth rings are running all the way towards the end. Nice and parallel with each other. So that's going to be the back of the bow. I don't have to plane this board any. I'm going to cut this 2 inches off, maybe 1 3/4 inches, all the way down. We'll run it right through the table saw and get to work. Nice board. Well, welcome to my office. So we cut it at 62 inches long. That left us with this board a 10-inch handle section that we can glue on. So half of 62 is 31. And then we'll measure 2 inches up from there, 2 inches up from there. So there's our 4-inch handle section. So our 4-inch handle section, we'll just transfer some lines across. So then from there, our handle is going to be right at 1 inch wide. So we have our center line right here. Off to the center line, measure out a good solid 1/2 inch for a 1 inch handle. And my ruler is exactly 1 inch wide. So here's where our fades go out to. So from our handle, we're just going to use the full width of this. So right at the widest part of our handle, where the edge of our 1 inch is, make a line and angle out for the fade there, and then a fade out on the other side. So then at the ends, we have our center line right up here. So let's make our center mark. So for a 1/2 inch wide tip, let's use our long ruler and then go down to, and for this pyramid style design, we can just go straight all the way down. Real easy layout for this style bow. There's our one line there. And then let's do the other side. So we have our handle section out to the fades, and then it tapers down nicely up into the tip. So then we're just going to do that on the other side. Real easy. Now cut it out on the bandsaw or whatever tool that you want to use. You could draw knife this out. Whatever you want. So both these sides look really nice, with nice grain running the whole way, nice and straight from end to end. This side looks nice, this side looks nice as well. So it looks like I could use either side. So I'm going to use this side back because I like the way that it looks. I want to keep that there. So I'm going to glue this extra piece on to stiffen up the handle and make it a lot stronger where these fades come in. It'll be a nice smooth transition into this widest part of the limb right here. So I'm going to, with the belt sander, flatten these sides off, try and make it nice and straight. Smooth these up just slightly, and then I'm going to glue the handle on. Scrape this red paint off of there. Now I'm just going to put some glue on both sides, clamp it up with 4 clamps, let her dry, cut this out, and then we'll go back to shaping this, throw out some more. On our pyramid board bow, we have our handle glued on. The glue is dry. Now we just need to cut this out. So I got tired of using a 5-gallon bucket or whatever I could find to make these fades. So I just cut out a piece of steel, trace it on with the radius of that about a 5-gallon bucket. And then you can make your fades, which are a 3-inch section right here. Or you can make another side, which I might do for a 2-inch fade. So that matches up pretty nicely with the other bow that I cracked up. I still might try and fix that one. But put that at the end of your handle and then go down about just past the wood. Ooh, that's nice. Nice and easy to make those fades. Because there's a lot of stress right here in this part of the wood. You want to make sure that you have a nice smooth transition into it. So I measured this one and I'm at right over a 1/2 inch up here. But it's right around a 1/2 inch the whole way down. So a 1/2 inch the whole way down. So with this one, I'm going to make a 1/2 inch mark. And just above, let's go 5/8 because we need some tillering room. We need to be able to remove some wood here. So if we're going down into about 5/8 there. And then let's make a mark like that all the way down, 3 different spots. And then we'll take wood down to this, because with this one, this type of design, you don't need a constant taper, meaning thicker up here and getting thinner and thinner. With this one, it's just constant thickness the whole way down. So I'm just going to measure that out, make a line. We'll be able to take that wood off, speed up the tillering process. And we'll chop these out with a chisel as well. Put that down in there with the chisel. Another thing that's easy to do with a board is take your combo square. Make sure you have the right backing. So that's the back of the board. Set it at 5/8 here. And just use your pencil and mark the whole way down. Now it's pretty quick to use a chisel, just following both your lines of your fades. Cut off the edges. It's going to be a lot easier to cut the edges off versus just the whole thing at once. This is an 1.5 inch chisel. I learned this from Clay Hayes, along a lot of the different traditional bowyers, Bibles, those books. Glue joint looks good. It's a lot faster to do it this way than either use the rasp the whole time, the rounded rasp, or just to sand it. It's a little bit faster to do it this way. One way to take it off with a belt sander, or you can use a rasp, you can use a draw knife, whatever tool you want. We're down to the 5/8 of an inch, and that's still way too stiff to even start floor tillering this. So I'm getting a little bit of a bend on there, but you don't want to be pushing too hard. Now, as well as you want to round these off before you start doing any bends as well. Because when you have a sharp 90-degree angle, the wood fibers will want to separate at that spot. So round it over nicely. And what the book says is about the size of a small pea. So round it about like that. Let's do that on the outside. Now that we're up to this point, getting closer to a bend, you can use a rasp, take it down to your line, maybe scribe a new line on the side that's a 1/16 of an inch lower, which is what I did here. And with this coarse side of the rasp, you can really take off some wood. Going down on one side, then go to the other, and get the middle. So once you get down to your line, check for floor tiller. Got a little bit of bend real stiff. Got more bend on that side. So we need to take more wood off over here. So we made it to the floor tillering stage. That's where we're bending it and we're getting a nice consistent bend from bottom to top on this design. Nice curvature. Now we can cut some nocks in. Round these off just a bit. It's looking more like a bow. So we'll cut some nocks in the end and get the tillering string on it. Put it on the tillering tree. So I cut some nocks in. You can go down 1/2 inch or so from the top. You got 1/2 inch there, and then they're going to go down about 45 or so. You could use this as a gauge if you want. You can go 45, or you could just eyeball it. Eyeballing it works too. And then it's a good idea to connect those two lines right there. See right where they come through. You want it nice and straight, because my 45 lines are just a little bit off. So I want to make it nice and straight from there. So there's a bunch of different things you can use to cut in the nocks. You can use a chainsaw file exclusively. You can use a rat tail file. This one's a little narrower, so I still need to widen it with the chainsaw file. But that cuts in real quick. Or you can use a tile saw. I just bought a cheap hacksaw, and this is for cutting tile. And this quickly cuts in some nocks as well. So get them started, go down and in about halfway or so. Check the other side, and you just want to make sure that they line up. And the part that you really want to make sure that they line up is in between here and here, where one isn't higher than the other. Because if that's the case, the string is going to be pulling and torquing on the limb one way or the other. So that's why you want them even. Now you want to round out these back edges because it'll cut your string. As long as you don't cut all the way across here, cut it all the way, the nock is going to be fine. If you want to cut all the way across, if the tips are really thin, you just glue on another piece of wood to strengthen up the tip. Round these off some more. Then on the inside here, use your file to connect. Connect your grooves. Nice. Let's do the other side. Okay, so we have our nocks cut in. Here's my tillering string that I made. Real easy to make. You just buy some bowstring, twist one up. I'll make a video on that someday. But just make it long enough, and then you just tie a timber hitch or a bowyer's knot, as the bow making community calls it, on the end. So it's going to be right about here. You want it kind of loose, and then let's take it off the tip and slide it down a bit. So then from there I can come back on itself. That's where the loop is going to be, right in that spot. I just come back on it. Make a bite, just to bend back on it, and then wrap it around 2 times. 2 or 3. Put it through and tighten it up. Make sure that your loops, your twists around the line wrap around it, and you get more friction that way. Slide this on the end, hook it up to your tillering tree. This is my scale, so you don't want to pull over your desired draw weight. So I'm going to go at, not going to pull any more than 50 pounds. So I'm going to get it in the middle, about where my hand is going to be. And then I'm just going to see, since this thing turns, 34 pounds. So right about there, we'll go about there, there's 45. Let's look at it from your angle. The bend is pretty even, real stiff. You just need to take more wood off. Now if you pull it over their desired weight, if you pull it harder than that, it can create a permanent bend in the wood or permanent set, crushing these belly fibers, so that reduces a lot of your performance. I can keep this on or take this off and then take some more wood off. So then from here we're going to stop using the rasp. We're going to go to scrapings with the draw knife. So a good way to check to see if you're still on track is with some calipers. So I'm at 0.56 inches there, 0.56, 0.57, 0.55, 0.56, 0.56. So a thickness is the same on both sides. And then I want about 0.56, about the whole way down. And so I'm going down that way, 0.56, 0.53, and I'm thinner towards the tips, so I want to concentrate my scrapings here. Now from there, I'm just going to start with my draw knife, hold it flat on there, and you make these nice scrapings. So we're concentrating our scrapings on the first 2/3. I'm going to get all the way up to here. So there's 20. I'm going to do the same number of strokes on this side as the other side if my measurements are the same. So I'm going to go about 40 or 50, and that should be able to bring it down maybe another inch of draw length. So I always round your edges off. I've cracked a couple bows by not rounding edges off. So be careful. 49 pounds right there, right below the line. So we gained about an inch with those 50 strokes on each side. Looking good, looking good. You don't want to just look right at the tips, you want to look at the bend overall. The tips will want to correct themselves. So we need to take 50 more strokes off. The left side is looking pretty good. The right side looks slightly stiffer. So I took 25 off of this side. If you have a problem, if you have a hinge in one spot, so it's bending a lot in one spot, don't draw it anymore because you put an undue stress in this. You only draw it up to that point and never go past it, because in other bows that I've made and what everyone else says, it just makes a whole bunch of set right there and it's hard to fix that problem later on. So don't put more stress on hinges or more on these limbs than they have to during this process. So the name of the game is going slow. So I took 25 off of this side. Let's see how it looks. Once we get to a problem, we want to make sure that problem is fixed. And don't go any further until that problem is fixed. So I took about 25 more off of this side. It's still looking stiff. It's looking like this area. Not looking like the whole limb isn't bending as much, but this area looks a little bit stiffer to me. So we don't want to go any further than this until we fix this. That's looking better. It's looking like it's bending more. So let's take 30 or 40 more scrapes on both sides and then see how it looks. If you're working on a specific third, the front, second, or the outside, you want to make sure you're blending it in. So I'm not taking everything off in one spot and leaving a little hump there. Take a couple from the first third and then blend it through. If it starts to chatter, going down the wood, making little ridges, you turn your knife sideways, cut them at an angle. You want to set this up on the tree and like how you're going to be holding it in your hand. So I did a couple iterations of taking wood off. It's looking a little bit better. Now the reason that you want to put a string on as soon as you can is because when it's braced up with a string on it, oh yeah, it's stiff. It shows a lot more than the angle with your tillering string. So the way that it's strung up, it's a different angle than with the tillering string. So that's why you want to get a tight string on there as soon as possible. We're pretty close. I could take off another 50 on each side and then go from there. I'm going to measure, make sure I'm not getting any abnormalities. You can also feel with your fingers if it's thicker on one side or the other, or if it's a little bit wavy. So keep it consistent that way. So we're looking pretty even. Let's brace this up. So a good way to go is adjust your timber hitch down on the bottom and then leave about 2 inches up here from your nock. The general rule is with your string, have about 3 inches for your brace height. So let's go about 2 inches and adjust our timber hitch down here. So adjust our timber hitch down here for that length. Timber hitch is adjusted. Hopefully that's not too much. Oh, that's stiff. That's a good sign so far that the string is running right down the center of the handle. That's what you want. So we're at a short brace height now, right about 4 or 5 inches. And things are looking pretty good. It looks like there's a little bit less of a distance from here and here. So you take off just a little bit more wood on this side to even it out. Let's see how it looks on the tree. Yeah, the right limb is definitely stiffer. Definitely stiffer over here, so let's take some more wood off. So you have to flex the limbs to get rid of that memory that was in the wood each time. Still there. Let's measure on both sides. 5.3, 0.52, 0.51, half an inch, 0.50, 0.48, 4.8. Looking even, that's good on both sides. We have a slight taper going down. You don't want to pull it more than necessary at this point because you're over flexing that weaker limb and could create set in the wood. And just take your time. Don't be in a rush. It's real easy at this point to take off too much wood. I've done that a few times. And then you end up with a bow that's a 20 or 30 pounder instead of your target draw weight for what you want. A little bit better, still need to take off some more wood. So I'm not even going up to 50 pounds at this point. You want to fix this issue before you draw it any further than you need to. A little bit better, let's go a little bit more. Let's try 15 more strokes. So we're pretty close there. Your eye is a pretty good indicator, but if you want to get real accurate, you go to the deepest part of the belly here. Yeah, just at 4 1/4 under the string. And I'm at 4 3/4 on this side. So this side is still stiff. So I have it evened up now. And you want to check it on the tillering tree too as you're going. Make sure you're not taking off too much in one spot, taking a hinge or making a hinge. So I'm at 4 3/4 there, 4 3/4. And now, once that's evened up and I have no hinges, it's nice and even, I can now take wood off on both sides evenly and reduce the weight. But I'm getting close. You only want to go about 5 or 10 strokes each time up at this point. If I'm already up this far of a draw, getting close to 50 pounds, just a few strokes matter at this point. That's why you want to go slow and fix any issues right away, because we're almost there. This is almost done. And so if you want to get a little bit more critical at this point, you can use a straight edge and see where it's bending more, and where there's more of a gap in your straight edge. And then if you need to take wood off in that spot, you want to mark it. Looking good so far. This type of bow, you want a circular tiller. So it looks like a circle on both limbs. With other bows, you want more of an elliptical tiller, which means it's a little bit stiffer here than out here. And generally what you want to avoid is too much bend right here. That's called a whip tiller, whip-ended. And so you get a little bend here and a lot of the bend in this spot. That just decreases performance and strength of the bow. It's not going to be as fast. But a pyramid style, you want a circular tiller. About 50 pounds right there. I'm going to take off 25 more scrapes on each side. See what that does. So I took 50 scrapes off of each side. And then we're right at 50 pounds right there. You don't want to hold it at 50 for an extended period of time. That can put undue stress on the limbs. Undue set. So the right side here is a little weaker than the left side. I'm going to have to take some wood off of there. The tiller's changing now. So I need to fix that problem before I go any further. That's about 55, 56 pounds right there. At 25 inches, 24, 25. I'm going to take 5 more strokes off each side. Do some light sanding, and that should be pretty dang good. So with this design right here, you want even tiller on both sides. Now, with other types of bows, you want negative tiller because this limb is shorter and put under more stress. The bottom limb would be shorter and put under more stress. So anywhere around 1/8 of an inch is what people say, 1/4 of an inch. But this one, you want it even. So if I go, if you guys can see, So we're feeling pretty good. Out to, oh, still pretty heavy. Maybe a few pounds over. But you're gonna lose a pound or two shooting it in, breaking it in a little bit more than what you've been bending. But all in all, it's nice and even, it's looking good. It really helps when you get down there to use the calipers and see which side is thicker than the other. To give you guys some dimensions, we're at 0.40 of an inch, 0.41 on that side, 0.40, and it should be pretty consistent most of the way down, 0.41. It thickens up a bit towards the tips because I don't want the tips to bend quite as much as down in here. The limb is nice and wide, so you got a lot of wood to bend right here. That's kind of the design behind it. You have all this wood right here to do some work, and you want these tips a little bit thicker, and I can even narrow them out just a bit. But at this point, I don't want to be doing too much narrowing because that's affecting the tiller at the same time. But now I can make the handle a little bit more comfortable. I could cut in an arrow shelf if I wanted to. On this bow I'm not going to, I'm just going to leave it. But I am going to round the handle out. I'm going to make a little groove right here for my thumb to sit in. And then probably put a leather handle on, we'll see. But all in all, I'm happy with it so far. It's looking good. We need to do some final sanding. Go with 150, 220, and 320. Make it nice and smooth, and then put a finish on once we're totally sure we're done with it. We don't want this thing soaking up a bunch of water around the field. But we gotta shoot it. We gotta shoot it. You can see on my other bow right here, I have an arrow shelf cut in. This is where it broke because I didn't round off the edge along the back side before I started pulling it just a bit. So that was a rookie mistake, but it was a good life lesson there. But I want to make, with my bow, a handle kind of like this. So I left enough wood for that. And so it's not going to be quite as much on the side there. It's not going to be able to take out quite as much. But I did make a mark about where the arrow should be going. That's 1.25 inches above the center line. So that gives me a reference to go off of. So if the arrow is going through this shelf right here, you want to get your hand as close as you can to the bottom of your arrow. It helps with aiming. So that just gives me a reference for my hand to go in right here. And I'm going to take some wood out, kind of trace it out a bit, and then swoop on back out for a little bit more comfort. You also want to shape the tips up to remove a little bit of mass and to make them look better. So I'm just initially going to cut some off. A lot of people like to do pointy on top and a little more rounded on the bottom one. So rounded one is going to be touching the ground more. So it's going to be a little bit more durable. And if you switch up the way that they look, so you make the top pointy, then you know at a glance what's the top and what's the bottom. Now the bow's all sanded up, and here comes one of my favorite parts, is putting on the finish. Let's see how it looks. I'm thinking that it should pop with this dark wood back here and white wood. Nice. So we're using a tung oil finish. I don't have any pure tung oil. This is kind of a mixture of tung oil but it still works. Still provides some water protection. I'm gonna put 2 coats on. And then we'll be able to make a string for it. So if you put your bow on a flat surface and measure the limb tip, and at the bottom of it I have 1.25 inches, that's the amount of set that this bow has. 1.25 inches on the bottom as well. So that is acceptable for sure in bow making standards. Anything over 2 inches seems like there's a design issue, or you overdrew it while tillering it. Now there's only one thing left to do. It's to shoot it. So we have the serving on the string. Tiller is really close. I have 3 different arrows that we're gonna shoot. One 650 grain arrow, that's real heavy for an arrow. Another one about 475, 450. And then this one's just really light. I don't even know how light it is. But you guys will be able to see the speed difference. We'll start with the heaviest down to the lightest. Everything's looking good so far. I don't think it's gonna break, but I hope not. Here's the tiller. So now for the 475. Ooh, that's not good. So that skimmed off the top. Bounced way out there. I'm gonna have to aim lower. Nice! Shooting well. Tiller's still the same. I'd say that'll kill deer.